Kieran Trippier could be out long-term, and suddenly, Newcastle United's entire transfer strategy for January might need a complete overhaul. I'm Rodrigo, and you're watching Newcastle Mania, the channel made by a supporter for supporters who are absolutely mad about Newcastle United. You blinked, and Newcastle became headline news everywhere you look. We've got a situation developing at St James's Park that could fundamentally change how we approach the January window. The Trippier injury isn't just another knock, this could reshape our entire defensive plans for the rest of the season. But first, just one quick word. If you love Newcastle and want to stay on top of everything happening with our club, hit that subscribe button right now. It costs you nothing, helps us massively, and makes all the difference to growing our black and white community. Right then, let's dive into what's really going on with Kieran Trippier and why Eddie Howe might be frantically working the phones as we speak. So here's where we are, Mags. Kieran Trippier has picked up a hamstring injury, and the whispers coming out of the club suggest this isn't just a quick 1 or 2 week job. We're potentially looking at an extended spell on the sidelines for our 35-year-old fullback, and that's sending alarm bells ringing throughout the entire organisation. Think about this for a second. Trippier missed the massive 2-1 victory against Manchester City. He wasn't on the plane to Marseille for our Champions League clash. And now, Eddie Howe himself has come out and admitted they're not quite sure how long he'll be out. When a manager says that, you know it's serious. And here's the kicker. What does this mean for a squad that's already paper thin at fullback, heading into one of the most brutal stretches of fixtures we'll face all season? Let's break down exactly what we're dealing with here, because this situation has layers upon layers. First, the immediate crisis. Tino Livramato had only just returned from his own lengthy injury spell, and suddenly he's been thrown straight back into the deep end, starting against City in the Premier League, then immediately deployed at left wing back against Marseille. The lad's barely had time to catch his breath, and now he's being asked to carry the entire right back responsibility on his shoulders. And it gets worse. Emil Kraft, who would normally be our backup option, actually travelled to Marseille only to pull out of the squad with his own injury problem. Lewis Hall is only just getting back up to speed himself after barely playing any football this calendar year. Dan Burn can cover at left back in a 4-back, but he can't do that job in a 5-back. Jacob Murphy, a winger, remember, has been filling in on the right side of a 5-man defence. Read that back. Our backup plan for defensive cover is playing a winger at wing-back. That's how stretched we are right now. Now look at what's coming up. Everton on Saturday. Tottenham Hotspur at home Tuesday evening. Burnley the following Saturday. Then we fly to Germany to face Bayer Leverkusen in the Champions League. This is one of the most demanding periods of our entire season, and we're facing it with essentially one fit, experienced fullback. Now, here's where it gets really interesting from a broader perspective. The reaction to this news has been fascinating across social media and among the Toon Army. On one hand, you've got supporters who are absolutely panicking, and you can understand why. We've worked so hard to establish ourselves as genuine top 4 contenders, to compete in the Champions League, to build something special under Eddie Howe. The thought of that unravelling because we can't field a proper defence, terrifying. But on the other hand, there's a section of the fan base who see this as an opportunity. Trippier's contract is up in the summer anyway. He's 35 years old. As brilliant as he's been for us, and let's be clear, he's been absolutely magnificent since joining from Atletico Madrid, we were always going to need to plan for life after Kieran Trippier eventually. So the question becomes, does this injury simply accelerate plans that were already in motion? Or does it force the club into panic buying in January, potentially overpaying for a player who might not be the right long-term fit? Remember, this is a Newcastle United that operates under very strict financial fair play regulations. We can't just throw money around like we're Manchester City or Chelsea. Every transfer has to be calculated, strategic, well thought out. Eddie Howe himself has been remarkably disciplined in the transfer market, refusing to compromise on quality just to fill numbers. But injuries don't care about your 5-year plan, do they? Sometimes circumstances force your hand, and you have to adapt on the fly. Let's talk about what Trippier actually brings to this Newcastle side, because understanding that helps us figure out what type of player we might need to replace him. Kieran Trippier isn't just a fullback, he's a leader. He's a set-piece specialist. He's got Champions League experience, England caps, a winning mentality forged at Atletico Madrid. When he speaks in that dressing room, people listen. When he steps up to take a free kick, you fancy him to deliver. When the pressure's on, he's one of the first names Eddie Howe wants on that team sheet. Now compare that to what we have in reserve. Tino Livramento is tremendously talented. We all saw his potential before injury struck, but he's 21 years old, still developing, still learning the game at this level. He's got pace, energy, technical ability, but does he have the experience to guide this team through a Champions League campaign while simultaneously fighting for European qualification in the Premier League?
Lewis Hall on the left? Again, massive potential, young, athletic, improving every week, but he's only just getting match fitness back. Emil Kraft, solid, professional, but clearly injury-prone himself and not at the level required for where this club wants to be. We've got youngsters like Alex Murphy and Leo Shahar in the academy, and they might well be stars of the future. But throwing them into Premier League and Champions League football right now, in the middle of an injury crisis, during almost demanding fixture period, that's not development, that's desperation. So this brings us to the absolutely critical question, what does Newcastle United do in January? Option 1, they take the calculated risk. Trust Livramento and Fall to step up, manage their minutes carefully, pray the injury situation doesn't get any worse, and stick to the original plan of addressing the fullback situation properly in the summer window when there's more time, more options, better value in the market. Option 2, they accelerate everything. Identify a right-back target now, negotiate in January, bring in someone who can provide genuine competition and cover for the remainder of this season, even if it means paying a premium fee in the winter window. But here's the thing, it's not just about finding any right-back. It has to be someone who fits Eddie Howe's system, someone who can operate in a back four or a back five, someone comfortable going forward but defensively solid. Someone who won't disrupt the excellent team chemistry we've built. Oh, and someone available in January, which is notoriously difficult. Look at how other clubs have handled similar situations. Liverpool paid premium money for defenders when they faced an injury crisis a few seasons back. Manchester United have repeatedly panic-bought fullbacks. Some of those moves worked out brilliantly, others, not so much. And we can't ignore the financial fair play reality. Newcastle are operating within tight margins. Every pound spent in January is a pound that can't be spent in the summer. The club's recruitment team, Paul Mitchell and his staff, they'll be acutely aware that one wrong move could have ramifications for years to come. So where does this leave us as we head into December and then the January transfer window? In the short term, Eddie Howe has got to be an absolute genius with his squad management, rotating Livramento and Hall between positions, using Murphy as emergency cover, potentially shifting to formations that protect our undermanned defensive areas. Every decision he makes in the next month could determine whether we're still in touching distance of the Champions League spots come February. Then, in January, the board faces a genuine sliding doors moment. Do they back Eddie Howe with funds for a defensive signing, even though it might mean sacrificing flexibility in the summer window? Or do they hold firm, show faith in the squad depth they've already assembled, and risk the season potentially unravelling if another injury hits? Looking further ahead, this entire situation highlights something we've known for a while, but perhaps haven't fully confronted. This Newcastle squad, as talented as it is, still needs strengthening in key areas. We've done brilliant business over the last few windows, but you can't build a team capable of competing on four fronts in just 2 or 3 transfer windows. It takes time. It takes patience. It takes smart decisions. But here's what gives me hope. This club has shown incredible decision-making over the last few years. The Howe appointment, the Bruno Guimaraes signing, the way they've handled player contracts, the stadium developments, the academy investments. This isn't a club that panics or makes rash decisions anymore. This is a proper football operation. That said, football has a way of forcing your hand sometimes. Injuries don't check your long-term planning before they happen, and if Trippier is genuinely out for months rather than weeks, Newcastle might not have the luxury of waiting until summer to address this situation. Look, here's the bottom line. Kieran Trippier's injury is a significant blow. There's no sugarcoating that. But this Newcastle United has faced adversity before and come through it. We've dealt with injuries, with setbacks, with moments where it looked like everything might fall apart. What matters now is how the club responds, how Eddie Howe adapts tactically, how the players who get their opportunity step up and seize it, how the board balances immediate needs against long-term planning. These are the moments that define seasons. And whatever happens, whether we sign someone in January or we don't, we'll be behind the team every single step of the way. Because that's what this club is about. That's what Newcastle United means. If you've enjoyed this deep dive into the Trippier situation and what it means for Newcastle's transfer plans, do me a huge favour. Smash that subscribe button if you haven't already, hit the like button, and drop a comment below telling me who you think we should target in January if we do go into the market for a right back. I'm Rodrigo, this has been Newcastle Mania, and I'll see you in the next one. How are the lads?